Have you ever stopped to think about whether your money is really keeping up with the time of your life? Or if time is passing and the money simply isn't coming along with it? This is a question many people avoid asking during the day, but it often appears at night when everything is quiet and the mind starts revisiting decisions, choices, and paths that have been taking shape over the years. Many people have caught themselves thinking something like this. Am I very financially behind? Do people my age already have some level of security that I still haven't managed to build? Should there already be some assets, some savings, some sign that my financial life is moving forward at the same speed as life itself? This doubt is more common than it seems. The problem is that almost no one talks about it honestly. Conversations about money usually appear in two extreme ways. On one side are the stories of extraordinary success. People who got rich quickly, who invested early, and who seem to have solved their financial life long before most people. On the other side, there is silence, because many people feel ashamed to admit that they feel lost or financially behind. This silence creates a dangerous feeling. A person starts to believe that everyone is moving forward except them. They begin to feel like there is some kind of personal failure, as if they missed some important opportunity in the past. But the financial reality of most people is very different from what appears on social media or in inspirational stories that seem perfect. Before talking about net worth by age, it is important to understand something that completely changes the way this subject is viewed. Money is not just an accumulated number. It also deeply affects the way the mind works. When a person constantly lives worried about money, the brain enters a permanent state of alert. In that state, decisions tend to become more impulsive, more focused on solving immediate problems, and less focused on building something in the long term. This happens because the human brain has ancient survival mechanisms. When there is constant threat of pressure, the priority becomes reacting quickly. The problem is that this mode of operation does not help with building wealth, because wealth requires patience, planning, and consistency over many years. That is why many people live in a situation that seems contradictory. They work a lot, earn a reasonable salary, but still feel like they cannot move forward financially. Money comes in and goes out at the same speed. There is no mental space left to think about strategy, only to deal with urgencies. There is an interesting detail in this process. When a person has absolutely no savings, the concern tends to be direct, paying the bills for the month. But when they begin to save a little money, a different kind of anxiety appears. Instead of worrying only about the present, the person starts to fear losing what they managed to save. This fear can be silent, but it exists. A health problem, a layoff, an unexpected expense, anything can consume that reserve that took so long to build. This kind of concern creates a constant tension that many people carry without even realizing it. That is why it is important to understand that the goal of building wealth is not just accumulating money. There is also a very important psychological benefit in this process. When someone has a solid financial reserve, the brain stops operating only in survival mode and begins to have more space for rational decisions. Small problems stop looking like catastrophes. An unexpected expense no longer completely disrupts life. A change at work does not have to be handled in desperation. Money begins to fulfill a role that almost no one mentions. It creates mental space to think clearly, but when the subject is net worth by age, many people want to know whether they are within the average or far behind. The most honest answer to this question requires looking at the reality of most people, not at examples that are far outside the curve. The truth is that a large part of the adult population has much less wealth than it seems. Many people reach their 30s with little or no financial savings. This happens because the 20s are usually a phase of intense transition. It is a period of studying, starting a career, moving cities, adapting to the job market, and discovering professional paths. During this phase, the focus is rarely on building wealth. The focus is on building a life foundation. This means finding stability at work, developing skills, testing professional paths, and learning how to deal with financial responsibilities that did not exist before. When a person enters their 30s, many things begin to organize themselves. Careers tend to become more stable. Income usually improves gradually, and decisions become more conscious. It is precisely at this stage that many people begin to think more seriously about organizing their financial life. The problem is that there is a very common behavior that delays this process. When people start earning a little more, many try to compensate for years of financial restriction. They change cars, increase their level of consumption, take on new financing, and assume commitments that feel natural at that moment. None of this seems excessive when it happens. Each isolated decision seems small. The problem is that these decisions accumulate over the years. When someone realizes it, their income increased, but their wealth did not grow in the same proportion. The person lives better, but still has no financial security. This situation usually generates a new type of concern when the 40s begin to approach. Actually, that moment, many people go through a kind of financial awakening. They begin to look at the future more carefully. Questions about stability, security, and retirement begin to appear. When making this reflection, some people realize that the wealth accumulated up to that moment is below what they imagined. This can generate frustration, but it can also generate something extremely valuable: financial awareness. Financial awareness means noticing behavioral patterns. It means understanding where the money is going, which decisions are helping or hurting, and which changes can alter the financial trajectory over the next few years. It is important to understand that building wealth rarely happens through large, isolated decisions. It happens through small structures that repeat themselves for a long time. Saving part of your money regularly, avoiding unnecessary debt, maintaining a balanced lifestyle, and investing consistently are behaviors that seem simple but produce powerful results over the years. There is also a piece of information that surprises many people. The most visible growth in wealth usually happens after the age of 40. This occurs because income tends to be higher. Financial decisions become more conscious, and investments have already had time to begin generating results. This does not mean that someone who started late is condemned to fall behind. It simply means that time is an important factor. The sooner a person creates healthy financial structures, the greater the impact those structures will have in the long term. Another fundamental point is understanding that comparing your financial life to that of other people rarely leads to fair conclusions. Every path has different contexts. Some people receive family support, others inherited wealth, and others had very specific professional opportunities. When someone tries to measure their financial life only by looking at the visible results of other people, an unfair feeling of being behind almost always appears. That is why there is a much more useful question than comparing numbers. The question is not how much wealth someone should have at a certain age. The most important question is whether their financial life is evolving or standing still. A person may have little wealth today but be building habits and systems that will completely transform the next 10 years. Another person may have more wealth today but be trapped in habits that prevent any future growth. What truly defines the financial future is not only the value accumulated in the present, it is the direction of the decisions that are being made right now. There is also a very common mistake that happens when someone realizes they are financially behind. The person tries to recover lost time in a hurry. They start looking for miracle investments, opportunities that promise quick returns, or strategies that seem to solve everything in a short time. This type of attitude usually brings more problems than solutions. Real wealth rarely comes from hurry. It comes from consistency. Simple decisions repeated for many years usually produce much more solid results than quick attempts to recover lost time. Saving a little money every month, building an emergency fund, investing patiently, and consciously adjusting your lifestyle may seem like small actions. But when these actions repeat themselves for years, they build something extremely powerful. They build security, peace of mind, and freedom of decision. Over time, comparison with others loses importance. A person begins to realize that they are building their own financial path at their own pace, with more conscious choices and much more clarity about what truly matters. At the end of the day, the goal of money is not to impress other people. The real goal is to reduce fear about the future and allow life to be lived with more peace and less financial anxiety. If you made it this far, it means this subject makes sense to you. So take the opportunity to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and keep following content that helps you understand money in a simple and realistic way. And I also want to know one thing. If you watched until the end, comment the word consistency down below. That way I will know you are among the people who decided to stop chasing money and started building a financial life with more clarity, more control, and much more peace of mind.